Hey guys, my name's Jay. I'm here with Alec. Hey Alec, how you doing?
Hello. I'm doing amazing.
So what are we doing here, Alec?
Right now, we are trying to bring some positive attention and bring people back in as we tell you about what's going on with the Atlanteans and what we've done in the past and why you should possibly listen to us.
All right. So first things first, we are the Hampton Roads Atlanteans. We are based in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. For those that aren't familiar with the area, we're sort of in the southern bottom corner, right above North Carolina of Virginia, right next to the Norfolk Navy base. And Alec and I run a community. It's a Warmachine community. I started it in 2016 with another friend of mine that doesn't live in the area anymore. We've gone through a couple different iterations, but the current club has been together since September of 2022. Is that what you remember, Alec?
It is. So we got here in 2022, and that's when I remember coming in, having about 6 to 8 people, and then I dove headfirst into helping Jay.
So who are you, Alec? Why should people listen to you about Warmachine and topics of playing miniatures games?
Well, so I got into miniatures originally with another company in the very early 90s, and then I discovered Privateer Press right when they released Apotheos, and I can tell you my love of Menoth and Harbinger and how it went well for me. So I've been playing this game, both competitively and narratively, for almost 2 decades. And when I say competitively, I mean going to tournaments, going to conventions, even doing the VTC during COVID and other things. And that was my most recent thing. And I can help you to the best of my ability. Maybe my advice is good, maybe my advice is back, but let me tell you and let me give you some enthusiasm of where the game is and what we want to do. So Jay, go ahead and tell them why they should listen to you.
No. First things first. Why is Menoth the best faction, and why should it be the next faction that's released?
Oh, well, let me tell you. Menoth be praised. My love of Menoth, it's one of the first factions that we had here in Warmachine. And I love the idea that they're an underdog. They know they're an underdog. Because of their faith and their god, which I love in Warmachine, that they have direct interaction with their people, Morrow, Thero, the Morrows, the Theramites, all of them, even when you go into some of the other ones, that they actually know positively 100% that whoever is in charge of them is there. And, I've always liked the Menoth. I think, God, man, if we can get Zoo Menoth with Tristan Durant riding on a T-Rex that breathes fire as he leads everybody through back into the mainland, yes, that is what I want. Am I going to see it? Who knows? But I'm going to keep painting, and I'm going to keep pushing and encouraging Menoth players. I can tell you in the past couple months, I've been sending some of my factions or some of my Menoth stuff to people to try to get them back into the game, because I may have a problem with my collection where I was almost full FA 3 times over. But you know what? I love any faction. So if you want to talk about Menoth, if you want to talk about Signar, if you want to talk about whatever, I will talk about it with you. And I may try to always encourage you to the Lawgiver, but that's just because of my love of that faction.
So as long as I've known Alec, he's been a Menite player, and I've only known him since he moved to the area in 2022. And he is just a Menoth player. He just plays Menoth. He owns all kinds of armies. He owns and has experience with all kinds of armies, but when you come down to it, the only army he's playing is the Protectorate.
The only competitive army.
Oh,
I have taught people. I taught my son Chimera. I taught my wife Grimkin. I was beating people with Grimkin. They're like, you should take this to WTC. I was like, or you mean Menoth?
So do you have experience at WTC?
I do. I got to play some things. I lost a lot, but that's because at those higher levels of play, even if you are a good player, you still get crushed, because when you think you're the big fish in the small ponds, yeah, that's great, except for when you go against all the other big fish and then you realize, oh, I'm not that good. Someone can out-harbinger me, which if you know Mark II, Mark III, you'll get that reference.
So in the future, if you guys got questions about competitive play, Alec is your man. If you want to ask us questions, we'd love to hear it. Please send them in. We'd love to talk about it. I do have some experience as a competitive player. Back in Mark I, I was a fairly competitive player. I ran a lot of tournaments in the area. I bought in when the original Prime book came out in 2003. I started playing in 2004, right before the second book came out. I'm a Khador player. I've played a lot of Menoth. I've played a lot of every faction, to be honest. But my tried and true faction is going to be Khador.
For the motherland.
Yeah, exactly. The hero of my original Warmachine story from Mark 1 to Mark 3 was Vlad. Vlad's my boy.
I mean, good choice, good choice.
Yeah, I haven't found a new hero. I thought it was going to be Boris Yuk, but I don't know if he's going to be the prime hero of the Khadoran story going forward. We'll see.
It's going to be Yana.
I hope it's Yana. I like her a lot. Yeah, I hope so. So, who am I? I'm a gamer, an organizer, an ex-press ganger like you are. I joined the press gang in 2006. I've been organizing and running miniatures games since the early 2000s, 2001, 2002. Playing in that other game, and let's just call it the other game, Warhammer. And I started collecting Warhammer 40,000 in 1989, which is probably before many of the people listening to this podcast were born.
That's okay. We like the young ones. Come on, Zoomers, get your roller skates with your shoes on.
Yeah.
Or like wheelies. That's what they are.
Yeah. So yes, I've been doing miniatures games for a long time. I played 40K for a long time. I still have armies for that game. So do you.
But, I do. I'm fully painted Dark Angels.
I have fully painted Death Guard. The Dark Angels is my first army for 40K. But Warmachine has always been, since its release, and since I started playing it in 2004, it's always been my home game, the game that I love. And I gotta say, there's a lot of great stuff over the years, a lot of great stories. I've been to Gen Con 3 times for Privateer Press Games, first with the release of Apotheosis with my playgroup, and then as a press ganger working in the booth in 2007 and 2008. I've been to Adepticon a bunch of times for Privateer Press Games. I've been to Nova Open a lot since I'm from the Northern Virginia area, and I actually know Mike Brandt personally from the first couple years of the Nova Open. So yeah, I have a lot of experience with that. And both you and you've been a podcaster before, right?
I have. I used to help out with some of the Fayetteville guys. We mainly focused on painting and battle reports. Mm-hmm. You got to, I think the videos have been removed by the guy who actually owned the channel now.
Okay.
But if you wanted to see Menoth win or lose, you could definitely see. I used to go by Menoth Alec. We'll see if I open up my Twitch channel again, which is Racked and Confused, which again is an old man joke, but some of y'all are going to love it.
My past experiences, this is my, I think, 4th podcast. My first one, I was a co-host for Gamers Lounge back in 2010. Talked about a variety of different games, including Privateer Press. I was one of the ensemble on the Beer Thralls, which is a primarily Privateer Press Warmachine-based podcast. And then I also, most recently, was one of the co-hosts for Charge and Spike, which was a Warcaster-themed podcast that came out during COVID. So, Alec, what happened? What got us started with the idea of this podcast?
So we got here because SFG made a purchase of almost all of the IP for Privateer Press. So that's going to include Warmachine, Iron Kingdoms RPG. That's going to include Warcaster. That's going to include, most of their line. And
everything related to the Iron Kingdoms IP and the P3 paint line.
Oh man, I can't wait for more P3 paints. If eventually you guys see me on stream, you are going to see just racks and racks of P3 paint. And so we are here to discuss our thoughts after, we had to let it, sit there and think for a little bit. But now that we've kind of coalesced and we want to tell you what we're thinking and if we're excited, if we're not excited, the mourning period that we have for old Privateer, but we have hope for the future, and that's what we want to share with you today.
How did you feel on Monday, the 3rd of June, when Privateer announced that SFG had bought the IP?
I'll be honest with you, it felt like a hard gut punch. So I was originally a Guild Ball player, which we can get into later. So I was worried. I was worried about the game that I loved for almost 2 decades, and I've invested thousands and thousands of dollars into, and I've made so many friends, and I was worried that was all going to just go away. And, now I've read some of the AMAs, I've seen the Facebook chats, I've seen the Discord, and I have a positive outlook for the future. And, I just want to share with you guys on where I think they're going to hopefully take it, what they're going to do. And, some of that is going to involve, where we were with Mark III, where we were with Mark IV, and where they want to now take out Mark IV and just say, it's Warmachine.
Yep.
I have mixed feelings on that, but again, that's SFG's call. So Jay, how did you feel? So I said it hurt. I was scared. I was worried.
Okay. So I don't have a lot of experience with SFG. All of my experience with SFG, Steamforge Games, was I had friends that played Guild Ball. I didn't play Guild Ball myself, and seeing the game rise up, seeing its popularity, seeing it doing well, and then them sort of cutting the feet out from under a lot of players and just sort of ending development, ending releasing the game. And that was sort of my experience with Steamforge Games. I really didn't know. I do now because I've done a lot of research into them since the announcement, but I didn't really know a lot about the game besides they had sort of cut off the Guild Ball community sort of right when it was popular.
At its peak.
At its peak, right. And you have some experience, so why was it popular and why did they cut it off? Do you know?
Yes. So it got really popular, but one of the issues that SFG had was it was difficult for them to sell a piece unless it was the super most powerful piece. And that's at least that's what they told us. So I know from my experience, I'm going to buy a piece if it looks cool, if it's for my, if I can make it work, not just because it's super overpowered. Now there are those super competitive players, but I feel like when they said, oh, we can only sell pieces if it was absolutely super powerful. I know a lot of people that'll buy pieces that weren't super powerful, but that's, again, I don't know what their numbers were. I just know as a player who was playing and enjoying it, and then it just stopped. Mm-hmm. And I knew a lot of players that were really upset about that. And that's, again, one of my worries when it comes to Warmachine, because let's be honest, there's a lot of super competitive people here that we know, that I know personally, that I've seen throughout the world. And sometimes I feel like those are the outspoken ones. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you need to get this piece. You need to do that. But that's not some of the basic community members. I've seen guys in the local community that they're going to pick up a piece because it looks cool. Right. Are they going to put it in their army? Probably. Are they going to play it for fun? Yes. Are they going to bring it to competitive play? No. But they're still going to own it. They're still going to paint it, and they're still going to show it to people. And so I'm hoping that Warmachine players are going to be able to sow SFG, and they're going to look at it that, hey, we don't need everything to be super powerful. But also, they're going to need to look at balance sometimes. And that was one of the things that Privateer Press was really good about is, all right, we can look at the numbers, and this is not working as intended. This is way too powerful. This is kind of breaking it. And I'm hoping with uses of things like Longshanks, where if you have the premium, you can pull factions, you can pull lists. And I'm hoping that SFG is going to be able to do that in the future, because I don't want SFG to see the competitive nature of Warmachine, and I don't want them to say, oh, we have to only release these super powerful things, because there's ways to balance. You could release a new toolkit for a new guy so that someone learns to play a different way, or make it more specialized for how they do it. Like with Gravediggers, from what we've heard, they're going to drop in. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that SFG will look at that balancing that they can do. Do I want CIDs to come back? Absolutely not. Would I like some light balancing behind the scenes, maybe through War Table, where we can submit results? I know personally, I have the results for almost every game for the past, we'll say 8 weeks, that I could show you my loss ratio, which is sad, but Menoth be praised, I'll take those hits. And I'm hoping that when it comes to SFG and their buying of Warmachine, that we are going to see some of those developments.
All right, so for me, I'm a model guy first. So show me a pretty model, I'm going to pick it up, as long as it's for something that I want to play with. So you talked a lot about a lot of things there, and we'll get to all of that as we go along. Don't worry about it. So, but getting back to getting back to people
that owned a slaughterhouse.
Yeah. Oh well, you're lucky, because I would love to get a slaughterhouse. That's the one piece I'm missing from my Grimkin. So, how did it feel to me when they announced? I was hurt. I was worried. The Sunday before the announcement, I was jazzed. I was like, there's all this cool stuff coming out. Great models are coming out. I'm getting the Mastodon for my Khador. Yana's just around the corner. There's 2 new armies we're starting to get Crick. We're going to get Cricks this summer. We're going to get Gravediggers in the fall. And then Old Umbree's coming, and this is exciting. And then they announced the buyout, and I was like, so what now? I've spent the last 2 decades of my life running Warmachine games and talking to the community and playing with people like you have. And I was worried all that was going to go away, because the community that I know, the people that I know, are Privateer Press people. They are people that are dedicated to the Skull and Crossbones. And SFG is this community that sort of let go of their big game. And so, but in the week since that announcement, I've looked at SFG, I've joined their Discord, I've looked at what's going on, and they actually have a pretty decent community built around their games. They have a variety of games. They have role-playing games, they have miniatures games, they have board games. They have a lot of community that does a lot of different things. They have realized that they made a mistake with Guild Ball, and while the game isn't like fully back in production and going strong again, they have made all the old models available for people that want to buy them, and they've come out with a STL of a starter set you can print for free to try out the game, which I think is a really awesome business model. What do you think?
I think that's a great business model. I am hoping we see a little bit of that in Privateer Press.
Yeah.
Or not Privateer Press. All right. To me, it's been Privateer Press for years.
Right.
In Warmachine.
In Warmachine, yep. And just to be clear, guys, one of the things that SG's come out about is that they're going to, instead of calling it Warmachine Mark IV, they're going to drop the Mark IV and just call it Warmachine from now on, and that's why we're referring to Warmachine instead of Mark IV, which the people that have been playing Mark IV are probably more used to.
Yeah. So you said that. Have you looked at your thoughts on Iron Kingdoms? Have you thought about how they're going to do Warcaster? You've seen the AMAs, you've seen the stuff. Mm-hmm. What do you think? So you have that Warm Fuzzy's coming back for you? You're liking the... I should say this. Did you like Mark IV? Did you like where it was
yes.
before the purchase?
Mark III was great. I really enjoyed Mark III. Mark III was a little shaky at the beginning, but it was a lot more... It was a lot more balanced, even during the dark times of the CID. I actually didn't not enjoy the CID that much. They were a problem because you basically got all the information of the stuff that was coming out 4 months before they came out, and by the time they came out, the excitement was gone. And you didn't have any of that waiting to see what the new cool models did, or questioning people that were at the convention where the new Army book came out and trying to get them to post a picture or tell you what one of the cool new models did for you, like excitement you had in Mark I and Mark II. So that was sort of gone in Mark III, and that's just sort of the nature of the medium changing from a book format to a digital format, and that's fine. But Mark III, the best thing about Mark III is that it was balanced. Mark II was a great time to play. Everybody was excited. There was all kinds of people, all kind of fluff, art, all kinds of stuff was going on in Mark II. But the balance of the game was terrible. And it wouldn't get fixed for sometimes a year, sometimes ever. Was that your experience with Mark II?
So with Mark II, it was really difficult. We were getting a balance update maybe once a year, and there were times where Crix, I think it was twice a year,
right?
But where Crix would just roll over people, or Haley would just roll over people, or sometimes possibly Fiora with double judicators would roll over people.
Right, agreed.
But that's not what people wanted. People wanted a balanced game so that they could go in, purchase, and see their models on the table. Yep. And there were people who would buy pieces and you just wouldn't see play, or people who would sit down, like you would sit down against Haley and you just knew you were going to lose because Haley 2 was going to do Haley 2. But I enjoyed Mark III. Like I said, I played a lot. I still do play a lot. Yep. And I was really happy with Mark III. I know a lot of people weren't. They wanted different. Right. And then I understand why Privateer Press wanted to do a reboot, and I think them doing it into Mark IV was good. I have opinions on why I think Mark IV could be changed slightly, but that's...
So let me talk about Mark III.
A different one.
So Mark III was great. I liked Mark III a lot. I think it was balanced. It was interesting. I really liked Oblivion. I really enjoyed the ability to mix my different armies together because I had, like you, had a lot of different armies. And being able to take a little bit of new stuff and mix a bunch of old stuff together to make the armies play in new ways, I thought was really fun. I really liked...
Oh, yeah, I loved Old Faith. I loved Flame in the Darkness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think Mark III was a great time, and I think it's unfortunate that so many people didn't give Mark III a shot just because of the sort of rocky start that it had. Now, Mark IV, pretty much we were in a spot where Privateer needed to do something. They needed to change stuff up. They needed to get going. They needed to do something, and Mark IV was the answer to that. I think that they did a good job of taking the feeling of Mark III and putting it into a new game where they had sort of used some of the experience they'd gotten from Warcaster and some of the other games and stuff they had developed in between the end of Mark III and the beginning of Mark IV. I think they did a really good job by adding the command card system to the game. I think a lot of armies struggled having a weakness to like not having Pathfinder or not being able to access to magic attacks or access to ways to get around tough, stuff like that. I think the command cards was a good system, a good add to the game that added something cool that was new and different and was needed for a lot of armies to be more interesting and more flexible. How do you feel about that?
Did you like? I agree. I can't wait for New Menoth to get access to Spell Rack, I'll be honest, because I've seen everybody get Spell Rack, and I'm like, oh god, please Menoth, let me have some Spell Rack, because don't get me wrong, there are casters I take just because of their spells. Let's be honest. Resnick 2, I take him because Spell Piercer and Lamentation, and if those become Spell Racked, oh boy. I mean, they probably won't, but I would love to see those because those are Menoth through and through pieces for me. Mm-hmm. I still have some issues with Mark IV. I feel like some of the balance for some of the older factions, or necessarily them going from a 3 and a 5-man unit to a 5 and a 10-man unit, I feel like because of the amount of damage output that some of these Mark IV armies can put out, we can't get across. And whereas if I had 10 guys instead of 5 to get across, they might be able to get in there and they might be able to do damage. Now, Jay has seen me, and I will play janky to try to do stuff, and that's how I have to try to do to win these days. But originally I didn't like the movement, but as I've gotten to it, I can see why they went to it. I can see why other people would have liked it. I still really do miss old school movement because it's
blah blah blah.
I know. But no, I like a lot of this good stuff in Mark IV. I like the fluff. I like that they're taking the fluff out.
No. I wasn't trying to stop you talking about movement. I'm in the other camp. I think that the new movement is far superior. But go ahead, keep talking about the old movement. I think it's important.
So I really did enjoy old movement. You knew exactly where people were going to go. You knew how people were going to move, and you could adjust for that. Now here with the new movement and placement, I'm not as much of a fan. Now, if I had other tools possibly, and just like I said with some of the number of people we can use, or with the 3 and the 5-man groups, I think that makes it a little bit more difficult for some of us. But I knew this guy was going to go here. I knew this guy was going to go here. I knew this guy was going to go here. And in my brain, it worked that way. Now with Mark IV, one piece comes up and now you're going to spend maybe a couple seconds extra to be like, oh, well, do I need him here? Do I need him here? Do I need him here? And that's okay. That I get that. But to me, I really liked Mark IV movement. But
you might Mark III movement.
I'm sorry, Mark III movement. I mean, everything else I actually do really enjoy in Mark IV. Like I said, I can't wait to see a spell rack for some Zoo Menoth. And but I think it's a good thing for these newer armies that, like with my son, he plays Chimera. He can look at a table, see who he's playing against, what faction he's playing against, and be like, oh, I don't need this spell. I should take this spell. And I like the idea fluff-wise of them doing that, because for years in IKRPG, they would talk about that, oh, I haven't used this spell in a while. Let me give me 10 minutes and I'll remember how to do the runes. I'll remember how to do the focus on it and change it up. In fact, in Mark of Cain does that. He hadn't used True Sight in a while, and he's like, oh, wait, hold on, I do know how to do this. Give me a minute. So I like the idea of the fluff of it, and I like the idea of the gameplay and how it gives you a different dynamic. Because I'm all about, I don't want the most powerful piece just to walk across the board and just smash. I want to see someone, oh, hey, you're looking at your opponent, you're like, I can, if I move this here, and I change this, and I remove this piece, or I shift this piece over by dragging it, now I have a shot at taking you out of the zone and possibly also threatening your Warcaster. So what do you want to do? Do you want to save your Warcaster and possibly lose the zone? And I like that. I love scenario play, and I like almost all of the scenarios that we currently have. I have some issues with some, but that's just me.
All right.
I think they could be balanced better, and that's not a hit on Privateer Press with how they did it, and it's not going to be hopefully a hit on on SFG, I'm hoping they will look at how people play and try to make it better for everyone. And that's one of those things that I'm really hoping for the new Steamrollers.
They've already done that with Invasion, for example.
They have. And I love that they took some feedback on that.
Yeah, and I will say, me and JD, one of our other members, have played Invasion in our games the last 2 weeks, and the new mission is much superior to the old version of the mission. So me personally, I'm actually a really big fan of the new movement system. I understand why people like the old one. I understand the moving a model and knowing where it's going to be, but the new system actually makes the movement a lot simpler, a lot faster. And that's because you don't have to worry about when this guy moves, he has to end up within unit coherency of this guy. So is he in unit coherency of this guy? When this guy moves and I'm moving through difficult terrain, I have to compute how far he's moved and then how far the double movement's moved and then how far he can move after that. And I have to do that for all 10 guys in a unit, and I've got 4 units that have 10 guys in it. So it's just taking time, more and more and more time to move these guys, where I can just move one model and place the other guys within range of it. I know instantly that they're in range, they're in spot, and I don't have to go through every single model of processing. Well, this guy has to move here, and then measuring distance to make sure that he's in command here. And
that's definitely easier for newer players. I think some of the older players, we like having to do that math.
I will disagree with you 100%. As an older player, I'll disagree with you 100%. I hated doing that in the old game. It's actually the thing that I loved about Warcaster when they came out with Warcaster over Warmachine.
There's probably certain ways my brain works that we'll just say why I probably liked some of that old stuff. But no, I get that. But for me, I liked being able to know if I block here, I can make it, or I can stop you, or you could stop me.
All right.
But what we did mention earlier is, how do you feel about the changeover for people coming in, or people maybe going in a different direction? How do you feel about that? Because I know you and I both had a lot of good friends that we made over the years in Privateer. So what do you think about that? I know they've mentioned in the AMAs and they've mentioned in their release on who's coming over. And then there are some people who are going to be going in a different direction. So where's your thoughts and feelings on that?
I mean, I don't think it's... I think they've mentioned a couple people. They've mentioned Matt, Jason, Matt G, Matt Wetz, the guy that's part of your buddy that's part of Dev for IK, and then Lauren. And those are the only people they've mentioned specifically by name as coming over. I know that I'm excited that that the community, the existing dev is sticking around. Now I don't know if they've totally said exactly how those changes are happening and what exactly they're gonna that people are gonna be doing and how they're gonna be involved. But I know for sure that I like that. Me personally, I understand that SFG has their own studio. They have their own marketing and arts department and sculptors, but I am going to be sad to see Doug go.
Yeah,
Doug, by Doug we mean Doug Hamilton.
Yes, I'm sad Doug's going. I'm sad John's going. There's a lot of other good people that were at the company that.
So can you define who John is? So I know who he is, but can you explain?
So that'd be John Swinkles. He was your Gen Con guy. And for a long time, he also used to do their, or help with their podcasting. Or I guess they technically weren't called it a podcast, but their painting streams, their stuff like that. And John used to help with that, just like he used to work with Tony on that. And I used to hop in at those times and listen and paint along or do stuff and, chatting with them and other things. Those are people who I think did a great job and were very dedicated to Privateer and to Warmachine and to the community, and that's going to be sad to me to see those people go.
I will agree.
I'm hoping we will make those friendships with new people, but you know how it is when you get old. You don't like change, you don't like new people.
Yeah.
People try to step into your shrine and burn it or damage it with lightning, like those people. And that's a man-off joke there.
Yeah, I think I think that I agree with you. I think that we're going to miss a lot of those old people. But, I mean, both the founders, Richard Loxham and Matt Hart, so they're both ex-press... I mean, they both play Privateer Press games. It sounds like they're both ex-PGs. They used to run the competitive community in Mark 1 for Privateer Press in the UK. So they're old hats. I know that Russ, the guy that's in charge of the SFG studio, used to sculpt for Privateer. So it's not like there's not people that we're going to get to know and aren't connected to the old game, aren't connected to Privateer Press in the past by them going to SFG. So I think there's an opportunity for us to meet new people, but I agree it's going to be hard letting go of the people that we knew. Letting know of the people that we were looking forward to seeing at conventions. What's going to happen with their podcast? Like, I mean, Primecast Plus is just gone, right?
I know. I'm hoping it's not. I think they said in one of the AMAs that they're going to try to bring it back and keep it up. I'm really hoping they bring back some of those things they used to do in Mark III and where they would, and even in Mark IV, where you would be able to paint along with one of their painters. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that they do that. I'm hoping they show, the people just gathering on a plane, because one of those things is when you watch the guys who you chat with, or you watch the people who make a Facebook post or a Discord post, when you actually watch them playing, it gives you more confidence as a player, like, oh, they're not just making these rules in a vacuum. They play it. They see it. Now, maybe they don't play your play style, or maybe your faction is not going to get the benefit this time. And I have to say this time because they're going to probably help you in the future. I would really like SFG to do things like that, because I think whereas they talked about they want to see the community grow, they want to give confidence to the people. Mm-hmm. One of the best ways you can do that is show your people playing, or, have someone go out and go to a local store and have someone be like, oh, hey, we're going to set up a camera. We are going to show you at a local store where our people are playing, or at a convention. Show me your guys throwing dice, because that is, as a player, that is going to give me more confidence that these people know the rules, that these people play the rules, and that we're going to get a great game system going.
So what do you think about a Painting with Charles stream?
Absolutely. I will paint with Charles on Harvey.
We do know that Charles, one of the guys that's been painting for Privateer and putting up painting tutorials in their news section and all, has been hired by SFG and will be continuing to paint Warmachine and probably other games for SFG in the future.
I'm super excited about that. I can't wait to see what Charles does here in the future. I can't wait to see some of the new rules that Lauren's going to work on and balance in these new pieces.
Agreed.
I would love to see, them explaining why, or Fluff. Man, I miss Doug Seacat coming on and telling us Fluff and answering questions that we had. And, I know that Doug does other things now, and that's amazing. But SFG, if you can get Doug on to talk about Warmachine, he will talk your ear off, and you will love it.
There are people in the AMAs that have been pushing for a return of Doug Seacat. I can confirm that.
He is amazing. He is a nice person, and which I was quiet at some of those conventions, so I don't know if they even remember me. But he is one of those people, if you ask him a question, he has already thought about it a lot, and then he will tell you why it is. And that's amazing to me, because I've played a lot of game systems where they can't tell you why a Dreadrot would act the way it did. Why in Grimkin, this was one of my favorite things that he talked about was, oh, well, did you know that this piece sometimes gets to do fun stuff and interact with this piece on, just when they're just goofing around. And people are like, wait, what? But it totally makes sense fluff-wise on why that would happen. And I want to see people who love the fluff, who love the interaction. I'm explaining why a character would act the way they do. I can totally understand why Kane, when he was looking for Cynthia and he needed to find her, he worked and continued to work with the Black 13th. And there was a whole book on that, but then you could even see why he would work outside that, why he would do stuff. Because he needed information on Cynthia. So he's gonna be a mercenary, and he's gonna help these people. And he's gonna do these things. And I love the fluff idea. And, if they can bring back Seacat, oh, that'd be amazing. I should say Mr. Seacat. I will give him that pride.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be I'm very excited to see what they do with both telling the past story and the future story of Warmachine. And I think that for the most part, they're going to continue doing that through the app. That's what it sounds like to me. but they will probably, hopefully, do some stories, do some podcasts, do some information, do some... I mean, personally, I'd love to see the book lines come back, but that's probably just me.
Oh, I loved the codexes. I'm
not talking about the army books. I mean, the army books were cool. I'm talking about the actual novels.
Oh, yes. Man, if we can finally get a third Malcontents novel or another one about the Hellslingers, come on. Like they said, Hellslinger book 1. I would like book 2 and 3, please. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to push an author, and just me personally, I want to know what happened. When Kane got on that boat with the Hellslingers and he was going to Crix, I want to know why. Or with the Malcontents, I want to know if Cleesby picked up his captaincy. Did he ever get knighted? You know, Madigan, it was like, oh, you're going to know how a knight feels. I want to know if Cleesby knew or finally figured out why a knight feels. I want to know about, I forgot the pirate guy that they wrote 2 novels on him. I just blanked on his name.
I think, me personally, I'd like them to tell some new stories. I mean, yeah, it'd be great to have some answers for those old stories and things, but I think some new stories, some new heroes, some new people to love and to talk about would be great. And that's, I think, yes, they're doing that with the fluff on the app, but there isn't the depth of a novel, the depth of a book, to be able to get into those stories and really tell the nitty-gritty and the pieces of the new stories. And that's where I think they need to be focused, personally.
So you're talking about 200 or 300 pages, not just 5.
Right. I mean, you can't tell me you wouldn't love to have a book about Cynthia and
I would, absolutely.
The new Gravedigger armies and missions of talking about the airships, flying on missions and them deep striking into the battlefield and digging in. I mean,
I think Deep Strike's copyrighted. I think it's airdropped. You don't want to upset that other company now.
Yeah, whatever.
No, I would love to see novels and stories on,
right.
Because just think about it, if you had all the different things that a platoon would interact with when they're interacting with the Crix, when they're interacting with the Cadorians. I want to see what's happening in Kador, because you have so many stories you could tell there, because the Infernals really did mess that stuff up. And when you found out that all the Grey Lords had just taken in full infernal things, and I would love to see what's going on. Like, where are they going? How is the Empress doing? Because we know that not Leto, Julius is dead, and his twins are taking over. I want to know their story. I want to know their childhood. I want to know them growing up in Castle Railthorn. I want to hear maybe were Infernals talking to them? Were maybe other people? Were there people in court who were trying to change how the world was going for Signar? Or heck, give me new stories about Menoth. I mean, that I really would like, but hey, I'll be okay. I'll take stories about mainland armies.
Yeah, I think for me the book I would want the most would be a premise book on Borsuit and talking about what he did at the end of the Infernals War, and then how he got his name and how he became who he is because of hunting down the Grey Lords and becoming a warcaster, and I'd love to have a book or even a trilogy of books about that personally. But I'm a Kador guy, so that's what I care about. I just want a novel, Kador, Signar, anything. I think a book series about the Tristan's taking the people of Menoth from the battle at Oblivion at Henchhold, and how they got down to Zoo, and how they the struggles and how they formed a new country. I think a novel or two about that, or even a trilogy about that, would be amazing. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of story there, and I think it would be great if SFG were to embrace that media, that form, and started creating novels and things again. And because there's lots of authors that want to write about it.
Absolutely. Oh man, can you imagine a storyline about the new Mana Wars? And how you have like regular people, not just big burly guys, but just regular guy who's just dedicated to the motherland, and they put him in armor, not because he's big and strong, but maybe because he's smart.
Well, that's the interesting thing is with the Man-O-Wars and the Shock Troopers and the Winter. I mean, just a book about the forming of the Winter Corps would be cool, because the Winter Corps are the first People's Army, and all of their soldiers are cross-trained in all the different specialties. Now, I'm sure there's people that are better in certain specialties than others, and they are your heroes and your leaders and your named characters and stuff like that that wear the Man-O-War suits. But any soldier can go into any suit they can be fielded. They can field any role. So if they need to put guys in shock trooper armor and have the guns and the pikemen, they can take a company of regular Winter Corps infantry guys, put them in those suits, and they have the ability to do that. If
I love that idea.
They need pilots. They need pilots for Man-O-War suits. They can take the regular soldier guys and put them in the Man-O-War suits. Even the Arcanists, the magicians, are just regular guys that have a magic tool that allows them to cast spells and augment their army. I mean, that's
a scroll. They just open it up.
I think it's actually an alchemical device. It's sort of like a alchemical. It's not a storm chamber, but I think it's like an alchemical storm chamber type device that allows them to cast spells. Is it kind
of like the stuff we would see in Strangelight, where they have the different alchemy things? And
yeah, supposedly.
I mean, I would love stories on this.
So the initial sort of fluff that when they first started talking about them was that they gave them to conscripts. They gave them to like the new trainees that were new to the army, the new guys, and there was a chance that when they were using it, it would explode. Now that doesn't happen in the game, but I think it would be hilarious if it did, or if they were to add something like that. It feels very Mark 1. But
hey, I would love that idea. I think that's the challenge. Like, hey, is this? We're gonna to phrase it something else. Is this gonna get hot?
Right.
And I would like to see that, because that's one of those things. Like, you have to chance it. You know what? I can tell you in Menoth. I can tell you an example. Mm-hmm. Playing Harbinger. All right, I'm gonna take damage, but I'm gonna revive this piece, and then I'm playing Harbinger on 5 hit points with my Hierophant, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. It's fine. I'll take some damage. I'll heal. I'll take some damage. And then 2 pieces die. And you're like, which one do I keep alive? Because if I roll a 3 on these dice, she's dead. Maybe I roll a 1. Maybe I don't.
What was the name of the rocket? What's the name of the rocket launcher unit?
The Sunburst Cruise. Yeah, I can tell you stories about that.
Not even the Sunburst, the original ones, the unit.
Oh, the Deliverers.
So units. In Mark 1, the Deliverers had a rule where they could fire their rockets, but if you rolled double ones, if you critically fumbled, instead of placing the template on the models and then scattering it, you place it on the guy.
Absolutely.
So that's an example of that kind of rule taking effect in Mark 1. So yeah. There would be an opportunity. I would love a narrative avenue of gameplay that added those kind of little effects back into the game. Jacks that were like berserkers, that had critically poor cortexes, that if they used too much focus could explode and cause the jack to explode. I think that some of that detail gets lost. I understand why, especially in Mark 4, some of that kind of stuff got cut out because they want to sort of streamline the game and make it play faster. But some of that detail is missing. So like, I always loved that Bile Thralls in Mark 1 and 2 and 3, where they could sacrifice themselves to do a special attack that did more damage or hit a bigger area. Stuff like that, I think, is a piece of the old game that hasn't transferred well into the new game. Or is just missing.
Do you think they're going to bring that stuff in? Or do you think we are just going to...
I don't think that's, at least competitively, that's something that's going to happen. I'd love to see that as something that could be added to the IKRPG, or to certain narrative scenarios, or even a narrative format. One of the things that was pitched by Matt Hart in one of the AMAs, the most recent AMA, was that someone asked a question about, well, now that you own all these different games within the Iron King's IP, what are you going to do with games like Company of Iron and High Command? And Matt Hart's answer was like, well, we're focused on Warmachine, the Iron Kingdom's Requiem role-playing game, and P3 right now. But in the future, we have backlog stuff, and we'd like to look at some of the old, maybe being able to make some of the older models available again, or doing new versions of old models for legacy armies, or reviving these older games, or even making new games and things for the IP. And one of the ideas he pitched was that maybe they could turn Company of Iron, the skirmish game, into a way to a small format cheap game to get new players into the game and interested in the game, and then you could take your sort of starting army that you build for Company of Iron and use it as a building platform to get into Warmachine. And that would be really cool. That would be really cool. And that would be a really cool format to add some of those tweaks and things. The negative effects of using a magical device, or the danger of having a tank of gasoline on your back for your flamethrower and getting shot in the back.
Or throwing them, maybe.
No,
not that I ever did that.
No. Not that I played Menoth in Mark 1 because of that. No.
Menoth be praised. So you mentioned possibly having those things leading into it. Yeah. Now, I know you and I both have probably hundreds, if not more, hours in Iron Kingdoms, both 5e and 2d6.
Right.
And I think I only played a little bit of the Witchfire when it was 3.0.
Yeah, I played 3.0 and 3.5 quite a bit. I played a lot of IKRPG, and I've played Requiem with you.
Now, I know I personally used to use 2d6 as a way to try to get people into, or to transition them back and forth between Warmachine or Iron Kingdoms.
We should premise 2d6. So 2d6 was the second edition of the role-playing game. And it used the core mechanic was based around the rolling 2 dice, adding a number and trying to equal beat another number mechanic that Warmachine is based around. They expanded it and made the stats and stuff a little more. There were 2 stats that would coalesce into one stat, so that you could make it a little bit more rich and inviting like a role-playing game. But the core of the game was you were playing Warmachine, and you could use this game as a way to either introduce people to the concept of the mechanic and then bring them into Warmachine, or you could get Warmachine people to play the role-playing game with you because they understood the base mechanic. And it was very easy to just be like, well, what enemies are we going to play with today? Let's use these Crix guys, and then you could just use the stats of the Crix guys and your Crix guys cards and play them in the game. So yes, I totally use that as a mechanic to get people in.
And us who had the giant backlog of collection of pieces, it was really helpful for us because we could just pull from our shelf and just play.
Agreed.
And I love that. I'm hoping that I don't know if we're going to see this with the new Strangelight, which I love Strangelight. I can tell you, my kids who I read to love Strangelight. Now, maybe I shouldn't be reading that to them, but I would love to see 2d6 Strangelight coming out. I would love, because doing those dual classes, they could open up like, oh, maybe you had a Warcaster, but maybe he also specialized as a speaker, speaking to the dead, and that could add a new dynamic into IKRPG.
So I agree. I like the mechanic of, in our IKRPG, you basically would pick 2 careers, 2 paths for your character to be. You could have been a soldier who was interested in map making and being an explorer. You could be a cutthroat that also was a duelist,
bounty hunter,
or a bounty hunter. I mean, you could mix and match. You could basically take two paths and you'd mix the 2 of them together at character creation to create your character. And so your person wasn't one-dimensional. You weren't just a barbarian. You weren't just a fighter. You weren't just a thief. And yes, you can multi-class in 5e, and I think 5e is great. But
so do I. I was going to say I love 5e.
Yeah, but you and I are both, we love IKRPG, and that's a whole another conversation we can have on another cast. I think the important thing to get across is that it has been confirmed, at least for now, that 5e is going to be the primary game for SFG, and there is actually a Kickstarter coming out at the end of this month for the Strangelight Workshop stuff, which we were talking about. For those who don't know what Strangelight is is the people that explore the weird and the crazy. At one point, that was just like the people that investigated the Grimkin. They're the Ghostbusters.
Grimkin, Infernals, everyone.
Yeah, but now it's been expanded, and they invest in the Infernals, the Grimkin, the weird, crazy things, the disappearances, the murders. They're the investigators. They're the sort of the people that investigate the things that go bump in the night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
they're not super overpowered. They're not going to bring all the guns, all the weapons.
Right.
Because, you can't bring a machine gun against a ghoul. Not a ghoul, like a ghost. It has to be magical. And these were like local people who were working together to try to help the people of the Iron Kingdoms of Western Immerand.
Yep. And so SFG and Privateer will be releasing, doing Kickstarter at the end of June for the Strangelight Workshop, which is going to be the next 5e book. And I think those of us in our play group are excited for that, and we've seen some of that kind of stuff popping up in our game, and I'm definitely interested to see what happens once the full book comes out.
Absolutely.
But it has been said that in the AMAs and things on Reddit that the founders of the game are both familiar with the 2D6 version of the game, and they both are big fans of it, and that while 5e is the current plan of going forward, there is the possibility, and they're going to need to talk to both the design team and the community at a whole and decide which direction they want to go. Do they want to keep developing 5e? Do they want to start releasing games with both things in mind? Do they want to switch to 2D6? Do they want to use some other system? They have a lot of SFG has a lot of experience in role-playing games, both in 5e and in other worlds, and it would be interesting to see what they do. Me, personally, I think sticking with 5e for at least the short term is probably a good idea. And one of the cool things was brought up to me by another one of our community members, JR, was that one of the things that SFG does is they release these encounter boxes, which are sort of like it's an adventure in a box, including all the miniatures you need for the adventure and the rules.
A one-shot.
A one-shot, right. But or a multi-part, and the books have information on how to either to run it as a one-shot or mix it into your existing campaign. I think the cool thing is it comes with like 15 or 20 models as well as the rulebook and the adventure you need to play. And I think that's a really cool mechanic, and I'd love to see some, we could have some Undercity style or Wildwood style IK Requiem game expansion boxes, and I think it'd be really easy to do for 5e.
Absolutely, amazing.
And that would be a great way to get some of the cool older catalog of models that they've already made and released as IKRPG things back into the workings in the system and introduce new people to the game. That would be another way to introduce new people to the game.
I think that's absolutely a great idea. I have friends who work in the system, and I would love to see them do that. I'm not going to tell them. So they are definitely the game designers, and I am just the lowly person who plays and GMs, but I would love to see some of that stuff. And I can tell you the dedication I've seen from people when I was in Europe, when I've been in the States, both in Virginia as well as in Fayetteville and other areas like in Atlanta and stuff. There are people who will play.
Yeah.
And they love it. And that's one of I think the best things with SFG buying Warmachine is you have people who love not just the play system, but the world. Don't get me wrong, people love the tight rule sets, and, they know, there's no question. I can tell you playing other games where you see people screaming in faces. You don't see that in Warmachine. You'll see people get frustrated and angry because they wanted something to work and it just didn't. But you don't see people just pulling out multiple rule books and, oh, hey, this, and then they have printed out sheets and this is how this is going to go. No, we're like, damn, I thought that was going to go better. It didn't, but that's okay. We are here to play. And maybe that's the press ganger side of it. Maybe that's just the fun of it. But I know I love how we do that in Warmachine, and I love the fluff. I love the world. It feels lived in. Sorry, I can talk for hours on this, and
you can.
Poor Jay has sat with me across from me, and heaven forbid if we're having a couple of beers, and
right.
I will talk hours on my love of the universe. That's probably why I'm currently his GM or DM for IKRPG.
And don't get me wrong, I'm the same way. I can talk about the game, talk about memories, talk about my cool worlds and the little things I add into my arcade IKRPG games of the past. I have a slew of that kind of thing. I just I think that we need to get back and focus on what we're talking about. Okay, so we've started talking about what SFG has promised that they're going to do, and what the plan is. Is there anything else that we need to sort of touch upon that you think is important to get across, that at least the information we know so far?
I think they really need to make sure that they've been doing these AMAs. It's great. Not everybody is on Reddit. Some of the older people are on Facebook. Some of the people are just on standard pages. I think they really need to reassure the community at this point in time. And they're doing that. They're trying. And I think they need to let people know that, hey, this big investment that you've put in, hundreds of dollars, maybe more, into Mark IV, don't worry. We are going to be here. And, but also that to be able to reassure the people who have legacy armies is, hey, yes, you were waiting for your new faction to hit and you've been sticking with it until it does. We are going to work with you. We are going to get it out. Trust us. And not only will the words help, but those actions will help too. And getting command boxes out. Go ahead.
No. I mean, command boxes are an important thing.
I think getting command boxes for not only Signar and Khador, but let's get some of those original faction command boxes. Let's get one for Menoth. Let's get one for Crix. Show us, give us some enthusiasm for what we're going to be seeing.
So
that's just
me personally, I think that the focus should be on ensuring us that the way things have been going are going to continue. And for the most part, they've been doing that. They've talked about how they're going to continue doing 3D printing, but while adding on the HIPS plastic command boxes, they've talked about how they're going to expand the both production and distribution areas and increase the ability to purchase things in all markets across the world. SFG having current production and shipping partners all over the world is going to help with that. That's a big reason why I think that SFG buying the company is a good thing. There's other companies that could have bought them and could have done this as well, but I think SFG, with their background with having been privateer press players, it will be a good thing in the long run. I think that the plastic kits are interesting. Me personally, I'm perfectly fine with the resin. I know not a lot of people are. I'm a little worried about having GW style plastic kits to assemble, and hopefully they don't go to the complexity and the level of following instructions like putting together a Gundam model to put together my soldiers. I really am not a fan of that for plastic kits. I'm really hoping it's models are a lot simpler to build.
If they go to plastic, do you think they're going to possibly give options? So like, oh, hey, maybe this guy has this weapon, but he also has a different pose. And I know that some of us love that.
I think that posability and ability would be cool. I think that at least the first the 2-player starter box, they're going to be a lot more monopose.
That's okay.
There could be some options. Like, I've seen some pictures of the Kane model, and in one picture he's got the blast shooting out of the front gun, and in another angle you can see that he's got smoke trails coming out of his other gun. I think having some options about including or not including those, like me personally, I wouldn't want to add those details to my models, but I know a lot of people like to have the shooting effects or the smoking effects of their gun and things. I think that those kind of details would be cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm really hoping that magnets are, and they have said that they plan to stick with magnets in the AMAs, but I think magnets are great, and I think expanding the flexibility and the options of models I think is great, and I personally wouldn't want to have individual infantry that you had to magnetize different guns or weapons to. I think that for models like Warjack and bigger, and tanks and things like that, I would be fine with having bigger. If I had a bison and I could either have a bison, a plastic bison with either the anti-tank guns or maybe a heavy machine gun or a flamethrower, I think that'd be an awesome idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. What do you think about? Sorry, I just with the magnets and stuff. You said you like it and stuff like that. Yeah. Do you think it might cause concern or for them for going into certain countries where maybe magnets are more difficult? Or what about? I know some people they love doing the arms and they love doing possibly like the shoulder things, but for some people the heads is a pain. Do you think they should continue with doing the heads? Because I know a lot of people, if you put the wrong head on, they're not going to notice. And I can tell you that. I've played games watching people and they forget what head is there.
I notice, but I'm probably unique. or not unique. I'm probably in the lower. I think that heads would be a way to simplify things and not just have it be a Cortex option that you pick on the model and not a specific head that defines that, or a specific barrel of ale or bottle of ale or a specific spine. I think that's a way they can simplify their models some and make those kind of choices different and simpler. I do like the flexibility of arms, and I have been magnetizing my old plastic Jack's arms for Mark 1, even as far back as Mark 2 for ages.
Oh yeah, I can show you some of mine.
Yeah.
I agree completely with that. I had a chassis where it was a Reckoner, it was a Castigator, and Sanctifier, and I love the arms, and that's why I was asking with the head, because people, I've seen a lot of games. You probably know, you played a lot, you watch them. I can tell you with some things, but a lot of people aren't paying attention to heads.
I'm a model guy, so I pay attention to all the little details and memorize all that kind of stuff. So yeah. But I think that keeping magnets involved, and I definitely agree that it is a problem in some areas. Even in the U.S., you're not allowed to package a pack of magnets with the models. They have to be separate products, and there is a lot of confusion in the both the store and distribution area, where making sure that both pieces are sent together if they're supposed to go together is an answer. I think that selling a big pack of magnets or having a big pack of magnets be something that's included in like a starter box, and then having enough extra magnets in that starter box to cover additional purchases of separate Warjacks would be an answer. I think that a lot of the cost in buying magnets separately comes from the company buying them from another creator and then repackaging them in different product to sell them. And so me having experience with magnets, I don't always get the magnets from Privateer. Sometimes I'll get them cheaper from another source.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's an option. I mean, that's might not be an option for other people in other countries or other locations. And I think that having another answer would be good, but I also think that magnets are going to help with one of SFG's big goals is to focus on the cost to get into the game and the cost to expand your armies once in the game. And so one of the things they're going to do is they're going to restructure how the boxes are laid out for the existing Mark IV armies and armies going forward, and making sure that when people are buying a box, it's not $200 to get into the game. It's maybe $80 or $60 to get in the game by picking up a battle group starter box or a command starter box, or buying a box of additional models. I think the current price point for the expansion box they're looking at is like $130. They're supposed to have this week coming up sometime between the June 10th and 15th. They're supposed to release another update about restructuring of boxes and pricing. But one of their goals
is to get the... Are you happy with the current pricing?
I understand the current pricing. I'm not a big fan of the $200 starter box that I have to buy that might have models in it that I'll never play with. I like the models. I think they're cool. I like being able to buy stuff individually. I understand that putting individual models into a store isn't necessarily a good thing, which is why I really enjoy being able to buy them online separately. But I do think that having a box of models you can buy off the shelf to have an army is great. And I worry that going to this expansion box format where you're not going to have a full army in a box is going to be detrimental, because you'll still have to buy a command box or a battle group box to get the Warjacks or battle group for your leaders to be able to play them with the expansion boxes. But I do think that restructuring the boxes so that the models that are in them are a little more directed at the type of thing. So like if you look at the Crix boxes, which are the ones we've seen and sort of the examples that have been set up of possibly how these boxes could be changed up in the other armies. You have the command box that has a Warcaster, a character Warjack, a character unit, character solo. It's about 30 points, which is the lowest point level for Mark IV. It's sort of your intro basic, what would have been a 0-point game or a 25-point game in the past for Mark III. You have your battle group box, which is your Warcaster and either 2 heavy jacks or a heavy jack and 2 light jacks. The Crix one is a Warcaster, a heavy jack, and 2 light jacks. So you have that, and that's going to be about 25 to 30 points, which makes sense for the intro of the game. And then the 2 expansion boxes are going to be somewhere between 40 and 45 points of models. You have the light model Crix box that has a new Warcaster, 2 units of Mechanothralls, a support solo for the Mechanothralls, the unit that both supports Warjacks and recurs models back into the Mechanothrall units, and then another support unit. And then you have the heavy model box that has another Warcaster, a character solo, and then the medium-based Brute Thrall unit, the new medium-based multi-wound Bile Thrall unit, and the new Cav unit. And then you also have the 80mm, and you'll probably get the Jack sold separately as well. And I think that's a good laying out of stuff. I do worry that the 2 expansion boxes won't have a Jack in it, so you won't be able to buy an expansion box and get enough points or models to be able to play the game. Mm-hmm. But having 2 different options, whether you want to have the character sort of narrative, one choice of everything, that you only have to buy one command box, I think is a cool way to get into the game. And I think that also selling a battle group is also a good way of doing it. And getting that core that you need to play buying into the other expansion boxes, increasing the amount of points you want to play. So on that price structure, I think it's good. The existing one, I think it worked. I don't think it was necessarily the right way to do it.
Okay. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot with that.
Oh, yeah, no. I've thought about this a lot. I've thought about this a lot.
As a person who is, well, you and I both have spent thousands of dollars on it. It's, sometimes for some people, like, I have the ability sometimes to spend that. Mm-hmm. I don't always, but I can definitely see where there are some people I've chatted with, some people I've played with, and it's difficult for them. And then because of how maybe something's priced, they don't want to play until something comes out. And that's a sad thing. Like, I'll tell them, I'm like, hey, yes, your new awesome thing's not here, or it's too pricey, but we can still play and have fun. And I agree. And I'm hoping that
and there are people in our community that have that struggle.
I wasn't going to say names there.
Yeah, no, and I'm not either. But there are people in our community that don't want to shell out $200 at one time, or can't shell out $200 at one time, or even $130 at one time, and they buy the individual models, or they wait for people to get 2 of something and have an extra copy of a solo, and so that they can do a trade for that or pick it up off them. There's all kinds of different players out there, and I definitely think that making the ability to buy individual units and individual models is important. And I hope that SFG embraces that. Though at the same time, Privateer's model of not selling the character models that come in the boxes, the cast come in the bottles separately on their website, I think is a limiter for people that have that. So there is going to be some cost. Some you have to bite the bullet and buy the $130 expansion box if you want to get this character. And I don't see SFG getting around that or ignoring that. Now, I do know that some of the later character models did have pip codes, so maybe they were going to do that eventually.
Mm-hmm. Now, some people don't know what a pip code is. Do you want to explain what a pip code is?
So a pip code was the PIP and then a 5-digit number that defined the army that you were playing and what model in the army that was, so that it was sort of the identifier code into a company's system or a website's system to be able to track that model, and sort of like the identifier code, like the UPC on a product for what that model was in a tracking system, in a sales system. Okay.
Now I know that sometimes we at our local game store have trouble getting things, which is probably a frustration for us. Are you hoping that with SFG taking the reins here that we are not going to have to deal with that as much? I know personally myself, I have had a carver that I have ordered at the store for 8 weeks. When did Carver come out?
Yeah. You've been trying to get him for 8 weeks. You've been trying to get him for 8 weeks. Yeah.
And
I ordered him. You ordered him directly through the store to try and get him through Privateer, and I ordered him from Privateer directly, and I have mine. And you're still waiting for yours from the store, which is a big frustration out there. And
that's a huge thing for me because I want to support my local game store.
Me as well.
And that. Oh no, I'm not saying you didn't.
Yeah. No.
That's been a frustration.
I think the breakdown that we've been dealing with is that ordering through the LGS has been harder for privateer press product because distributors haven't had it available except for new releases, and there are products that are website only products like Carver and Warboar, and Privateer has been catering to people buying directly from them instead of buying through a distributor and through their LGS, and I think that's a big thing that SFG is going to change.
I hope so. I'm one of those people where I don't need to, but I really encourage everyone to do it through the local game store, because let's be honest, not everybody has a play base at their house. Not everybody can run tournaments, and stores, they need that. If you want to continue to play, you gotta go to the game store and you gotta buy stuff there. Yep. So hopefully you're buying minis there. If you're not buying minis, hopefully you're buying like a soft drink or something, because we need a place.
Yeah, they need money to be able to keep a place open, to be able to keep the game active and functioning in your community. Now, I know there's places like in the UK that have clubs and stuff that do that for you, but support your local game store, guys. Support your LGS.
Absolutely.
Now,
you guys haven't seen it, but I've been painting a shrine here in the background, and I'm hoping that we can get I'm hoping we can get Jay here to paint for us. I'm hopefully going to be painting. And I think that's one of those things that when we do a podcast here or we do something like that, I think hopefully in the future we are going to get some battle report games for you guys. I think hopefully we get some painting for you guys. So Jay, what else are you what are you hoping for the future for SFG in regards to? So we talked a little bit about community support. Are you hoping they bring back some of those big narrative games that really do change our lore? Like, for example, Carver getting promoted because he destroyed the thing and jumped off and parachuted and survived.
I was actually playing. I was playing in that game.
Yes.
At Lock and
Are you excited about things like that? I know I am.
Yeah.
I want to see the difference, because we know what happened at the Scars Wall.
Right.
And I'm hoping, I know for us, we're going to submit our results to what's going to be SFG now.
Right.
That maybe we can change our future.
Talk about that, because I'll admit, guys, I screwed up, and this is actually our second recording, and we actually haven't talked about that yet in this recording. So tell us about that. Why are we going to be submitting our results?
Our Siege at the Scars Wall. So myself and another player have been 3D printing like crazy, both terrain and 12 feet of wall, 3 feet of rubble for the wall, so that when it gets damaged, we can put it in. And then we've also been working together on painting it, and we're also giving terrain to our local players to paint. And if you think you're going to come to the event, you let me know. I will get you a building to paint, to submit.
All right, so let's bring it back here. All right, so Hampton Roads Atlanteans, our community, is running a Siege of Scarswall, which is the event that Privateer Press ran at Adepticon. One of our local members reached out to Privateer Press and was like, "Hey, can we get the rules? We'd like to run the event locally for our community." And they were like, "Yes, that's awesome. Here are the rules." And so we've been talking, and we're going to be playtesting this month. And Alec and another one of our members have been 3D printing the walls and terrain, and have been working on it to use for the event. And we're going to be running this event on July 20th at our base store, which is Atlantis Games and Comics in Norfolk, Virginia. You can either communicate with us, and we have a Facebook event out there, and if you reach out and are in the area and want to play, we'd love to have you. We're going to have 6 to 8 people on the main mega battle table, and then there'll be support tables where people will be going and capturing objectives to add resource points to the main table to allow them to upgrade things, add more colossals to the table, and help out the armies and the battles and things like that. And also
either on attack or defense.
On attack or defense. Yep. And so that's going to be a really fun event. We're hopefully going to have pictures of the walls here in the next day or so that we can put out on the different Facebook and Discord communities for people to check out. And we'll definitely be announcing it more and more and reminding people about it as we come up to the event on the 20th of July. So yeah. So yes, I think that I would love to see more big narrative events. I would like to see more kits and things for communities to run. I'd love it if there was a series of community-run battles and events like this that affected an overall story, that the narrative that was going on, either through a league or through a worldwide campaign kind of thing. I think it would be really cool. Mm-hmm. I would love to see some of that kind of stuff. I'd love to see some tie-ins for Requiem games or role-playing games. I'd love to see maybe releasing a piece of terrain or an objective or something like that players could get as part of their OP kit or through the store and paint and have painting contests locally or for that piece of item of terrain. There's a lot of options and ways to get the community involved in the narrative of your story. I think stuff like that could be great.
You mentioned getting people together. I actually just had a thought, and it was one of the reasons why I used to love. Well, while I love Privateer, why I love Warmachine, it's sportsmanship. And I can tell you at tournaments, if you were a poor sport, like maybe you came over from another thing and you thought, oh, I'm just going to win, I'm going to crush, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do the handshake. I've seen judges who are like, no, you can lose via sportsmanship. And that's one of the things I love about this game. We're here as adults, or we bring kids in, whichever. But we're here to play and have fun. And at the end of the day, it's a game. Yes, we might be super competitive, but we want you to sit there and throw dice with us and have fun. And that is one of the things that I can think about with Privateer and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm trying to shake some paint here in the corner that didn't do well. But having good sportsmanship, and that is one of the things I've loved about Warmachine for years, is people, yes, they take it serious. Yes, they want to win, but they're there to have fun. And that is a great thing that I think our local community has, and we've had for years. I've had other local communities that they've done that. And I'm hoping that we continue to see that in the future with SFG, that they encourage that. That it's not, oh, we just want to sell models, we just want to have people, but we want people to actually have fun there. We want people to be good sports and to act like adults. And that is one of those things that I'm really hoping continues with Warmachine in the future.
I agree. So, closing thoughts. So, besides big narrative campaigns and things, what is the information we don't have that you want the most? And what are you hoping for the future? What excites you? And we know that Zoom off is your answer, but tell us what excites you. So what are you hoping? What information do you want? And what are you hoping for the future?
Well, other than Zoom off, because I do need to see Tristan, I would love to know more on what is going on in the mainland narrative-wise. But I also, I really need to see why people, or why characters, reoccurring characters, why are they coming back? Why did they think this way? I would love to see for some of the current people, I'd like fluff for them. But the most important thing is the community interaction. To me, I need to make sure that if I log on and I'm chatting with them on Discord, it's not just like, don't get me wrong, I'll chat with the rest of the community, but I would like to see someone there from the people like, hey, we're having this discussion and it's, we're being civil about it, but we would love to actually get a straight answer, because I can tell you, being on the forums for the old Privateer, you'd have to wait, and that's fine. But with Discord and how the world is changing, I would love to see them having someone there who can just chat with us. And I know that that's a pain in the butt because they are 6 hours ahead of us in Eastern, but being able, at least for the next couple of months, to do that handhold for some of the players, because there are people who are naysayers, who are angry, or feel, sad. And don't get me wrong, that's something I would like to discuss. And this is me. This is my personal feeling. We have put a lot of time, energy, and money in almost the past 20 years in my case. And there is a loss that happens, that has happened to us. And some people haven't ever actually experienced a hard loss, or some people just say, oh, whatever, it's just a game. But I personally have put thousands and thousands of hours dedicated into this game. And when I go on the forums, or I see other people go on the forums, and they're not trashing the game. They're just saying, hey man, this is hard for me to deal with because I've dedicated almost my entire life versus for some of these people to this game system, and then watch the comments get deleted or muted or things like that. That's a hard thing. And for a new game company or for a game company that's taken it over for us, I know they want the positive feedback, but you got to let us mourn.
I agree.
We got blindsided by this. This was hard, and if they can just give us that time, give us like a week or two at least, but because some people are going to take longer, because like I said, we have to process these emotions. We're like, what we knew, the people we knew, they're gone. Yes, there are some people falling over, but we need to work through this. And one of the worst things, in my opinion, that they can do is delete those comments and mute those people, because they're going to go somewhere else and they're going to get into another group of people who are just going to get ground. And it's called, like a downward spiral is going to happen where people are just going to get angry and then they're going to leave. Let people talk. And that's my opinion on it. So I really feel like on the Facebook page, on the Discord, unless people are, saying horrible things, let them talk, because it's one of those ways as a community where people can work through, man, this hurts. I'm feeling this, and let us just go through. And I think that's one of the things that they could do in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I agree. I think that, they need to let us grieve. They need to let us reminisce about the old days and talk about what we liked, what we enjoyed, what we had fun with, and how we're going to miss that feel of Privateer Press, because it's not Privateer Press anymore. It's Steamforge Games. And yes, there's a lot of hope for the future. I think one of the things you need to get more involved with is the Warmachine Discord on SFG's Discord channel, and you can find links to that on their main page. They do have a moderator that's on for around 8 hours or so a day that has been answering questions and talking to people. And their staff, Matt, one of the founders, Russ, the guy in charge of the studio, and several other of their people have been on and talking to people, both reminiscing and talking about the game, what they remember from like Mark 1 and Mark 2 from when they were playing, and some of the Mark 3, talking about painting, talking about communities, talking about all kinds of stuff. And there is a community that is there that's embracing Warmachine and Privateer and talking and starting to come together. We're not there yet, where we don't have the same pathways and same recognizing people and who actually is a member and who's just a fan that has a special colored name. There's some of that disconnect still. Who's actually talking for the company and who's talking out of the side of their mouth. Some of that hasn't been figured out, but I definitely think that there's a community forming around their Discord. Now, me personally, I wish it wasn't Discord. I wish it was Facebook or a different platform, because I think those are easier to track for that kind of information than Discord is. But, that's fine. Me personally, the bit of information that I need, and maybe it's because I'm a model guy, maybe it's because I really want to know what's happening with the armies that Privateer Press has announced. I want to know what's happening with Crix. Like, are they still coming out this summer? I want to know what the models look like and when we should expect Gravediggers. And most importantly, I want to know what the heck is going on with Old Umbry, and I want some spoilers now.
I understand that completely.
So
how long do you think it's going to take you to mourn? Well, are you through the mourning process?
I'm not through the mourning process. I sort of am looking at. So part of my problem is that unlike Alec, I've been playing Winter Corps since they came out. I've bounced to a couple other armies. I've bounced back to my Grimkin a couple of times. I've bounced to Gators. I was looking forward to playing Gators this fall after Nova opened, and was looking at things. And now I'm less sure if I want to really put my foot into Legacy. SFG has said they're going to continue to support the Legacy models. They've even talked about possibly down the line, when they have more time, maybe looking at adding some of the old sculpts back, or sculpting some things and adding some models back into some of the Legacy armies, or allowing some of the unlimited models to come into the actual Legacy models to add more flexibility and interest to the different armies. I think that's cool, but I'm still not. I think my biggest concern right now, and my biggest worry is what's going to happen with the legacy armies. Are they going to continue to be supported as well? Are they going to continue to be? Are the prime ones going to continue to be balanced? Are they going to keep releasing stuff like Carver and Warbore or Magnus and Invictus that allow those armies to still feel like they're relevant as the new stuff comes on? But then I'm also worried about, like, where is this new stuff going? And maybe instead of playing Gators this fall, because I think the Dusk are super powered and are one of Winter Corps' biggest challenges at the moment. But I've been looking at them as an army I want to play, and maybe instead of playing Gators this fall after Nova, maybe I look at starting to pick up Dusk and playing them and seeing how this new structure of model releasing and the new plan of model releasing works for SFG. And so in that way, I'm hopeful for the future for what they're doing, but I still need to know hard information on what's happening with the announced stuff. What's happening with Yana? When am I getting Yana for Winter Corp? We've had we've had the render of the sculpt for like 6 or 8 weeks now. She should have been released like right after the Mastodon came out, because she was the next thing in line that already had a sculpt. We know that Doug is in the process of finishing up Butcher, and Butcher is going to be coming out for Orgoth. And so I need to get her and get her painted, because I want to take her to Nova. And if that's not going to happen, I need to know when I'm going to get her, or if I'm going to be able to get her at all. And that's sort of where I am.
I understand that completely. I guess I'm kind of, the only thing I need to really buy, like, don't get me wrong, I bought almost all the new stuff. Well, mercenary wise.
Yeah.
And, for me, I guess, being as a Menoth player, I'm waiting for Zoo Menoth. Mm-hmm. I mean, my son has all of the, Chimera, and I'm super excited for him, but, being a legacy player, that is a hard thing, because not only are we kind of feeling, all of our old stuff, but also our fights for playing are they're uphill, and that's fine. I'll play an uphill battle, but man, I'd like a new balance, and it's one of those things like I said, I have my results for the past few weeks, mm-hmm. and I can watch how things go, and I understand we need to buy new minis, and I want to buy new minis, mm-hmm. so please give me Zoo Menoth so I can do it, or as one of the things that Jay and I were talking about the other day, I would love to see Krios possibly helping other people on the mainland. Yep. I can see him, doing, as long as they are people of the faith, I could see Krios doing that.
Yeah. And
that'd be a way to get some of the older players in. If they could just reassure the older players, and I don't mean age older, I mean people who have bought factions, bought armies. Like I said, right now I'm painting a shrine, because even though it has horrible rules and stuff like that, this is my love letter to playing Menoth for almost 2 decades.
Mm-hmm. And I agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree. I think that giving the community, the legacy people and the people that are waiting things, a little more connection to their old armies that they want to keep playing, I think would be a great thing that SFG could do. And I did mention to Alec that I thought that, maybe if they could release cadres or some models that could work. Imagine, we know that the Protectorate in Iron Kingdom's not the Zoo Menoth, the stuff
in
that's down in Zoo.
In
Western Imran, we know that they are severely depleted, and that they've, the Northern Crusades come back to Immer. They have a lot less people, because a lot of those people went with Tristan to Zoo. We know the Paladins
died in the Civil War.
Or died in the Civil War. We know the Paladins have gone with him. And we know that the church is in an uproar because their leadership, which was Fiora, and a lot of those people Fiora has left and has gone off to other places unknown. Unknown. Hashtags.
She doesn't have to come back.
She will.
She doesn't have to
come. She probably will at some point. But that's as an option. But
hashtag Fiora's a traitor.
Right. So I think it would be cool if we saw cadre boxes that brought some of these old elements back. You could make a Steelheads cadre box. You could make a Protectorate cadre box, and allow them to work with some of both the new armies and the old armies to give people a feel of that, to add a caster that has a spell rack, like you were saying, into a legacy.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Or to be able to mix some Menoth troops, say, into Winter Corps, because we know that they would be fighting against Krix, which is going to be the big bad with Orgoth in the future. Or a cadre box of gunslingers that are a mix of survivors from the battle from Lael and Signar. You could do all kinds of different sort of, small detachment cadre boxes that added a little bit more interest and give character to different armies in both Prime and Unlimited. And that would be a cool way, without having to do a whole new army of models, that they could tie in both the legacy stuff, even make legacy cadres of those old models. I mean, the models are there, people have them, and they're available in the secondary market. And if they wanted to make a new version of the Warcaster that was in charge of that army, a new model for that, or a new version of the Warcaster and the character models within that cadre, that they could sell as like a little extra thing, and then allow people to use other stuff from their collections as a cadre with that stuff. People would love that kind of stuff, and they have expressed an interest in looking at the back catalog of Unlimited stuff and seeing what can be brought into Prime. But that's a back burner thing that they're going to wait until they've switched over and fleshed out and worked on the production of the existing Mark IV.
Oh, I understand that. I know why they're doing that. I'm not trying to push them. I just...
Oh, yeah. I agree. I think the legacy stuff is important, and it's where we came from. I do think that, and I'm sorry that you have to play Menoth, but I think you could pick one of the new armies. Like, I know that you're really looking at the Gravediggers as an army that you could play. I mean, me personally, it is not my thing. I am not that guy, but I'm also not a military guy like you are.
Yeah,
I don't have that experience.
You get
right. I was never in the
You give me some airborne troops, let me drop in. Come on, it's...
Yeah. So,
I'll be painting and watching Band of Brothers for days.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, I
think there's a lot of potential.
Like to see that.
I think there's a lot of potential for stuff they could do in the short term that could bring a lot of legitimacy to the people that were there in the past. And, I mean, Krix is a step in the right direction. It's taking an old army and revitalizing it to the new. And I think that's something that they need to, and Gravediggers for that part is also the same sort of thing. I think that's something that Privateer sort of missed out on when they started with Mark IV. I think that the armies that were remade, I think the Storm Legion is sort of like Storm Knights, and Winter Corps is sort of like a mix of the old Khador stuff, but I don't think they got them exactly right. And I think that remaking those armies and SFG focusing, I think, so for me, from what I've looked at and what I've read, I think that SFG, it sounds like it's going to focus more on returning the memory of the old game with new stuff, instead of creating new stuff like Orgoth or Dust, or reimagining that kind of stuff. I think that we're going to start seeing more Gravediggers. We're going to start seeing more Trenchers. I think we're going to start seeing more of the older stuff reimagined or modernized. Then we're going to be seeing new factions. Then, of course, again, we have Old Umbry, which, yes, could probably be a reimagining of some of the old stuff, but it's also going to be Khador without Warjack. So what's that about?
I think that's a great idea. I can only imagine how they could do that and make it cool and give us, some new stuff and new and old at the same time, and really further what we think a faction is. That's awesome to me. I love that idea.
I agree.
I'm sure not everybody wants that. Some people want to stick with the old, and that's fine. But I think giving people a new way to play an old faction, giving people a new toolbox, that's gonna be really good. And I'm hoping that they do that. But at the end of the day, it's their company, and they paid I don't know how much millions of dollars.
Who knows?
But I have hope for the future. I wouldn't be painting what I'm painting right now, and 3D printing and stuff, and organizing and working with Jay, if I didn't think this game was going to last. And I'm positive for the future. I mean, you could call me a shill, but I think in this podcast, both Jay and I have mentioned what we were happy about, what we weren't happy about, and we'll tell you honestly. And if you stick with us, you might not hear stuff you agree with, but that's okay because we want to hear it. We want to know what you agree with, what you don't agree with. And, yeah.
So, sounds like you and I are both positive for the future. Is that right?
Absolutely.
All right.
I am positive for the future.
Good. Good. So now, let's turn it on to you guys, the listeners. And I know for a while we're probably just going to have that one listener, or maybe more, hopefully more, but at least the one listener.
Hi, Mom.
Right. So tell us what you think. Tell us if you agree, disagree, what you're looking forward to, what you're going to miss, and let us know what you think about this kind of podcast. Is this something you want to hear from us more? So
yeah, do you want to see our battle reports? Do you just want to hear us talking into the wind? Do you should we do it so that we can see a chat so you can tell us when we made a rules mistake? Do you want to see us playing? What do you want to see?
All right.
Do you want to see my bad painting and Jay's good painting? Let us know.
Every model's ugly for a while. All right. So, thank you very much for checking out Atlanteans Episode 1. We'll hopefully be back to you soon with Episode 2 in the near future, probably at the next week or two after we've gotten some more information from SFG and had some more experiences with what's happening and hopefully we'll have a lot more to talk about. So for the Atlanteans, this has been Jay.
And this is Alec. And I want to say, feel free to reach out and tell me what I am right and what I'm wrong about. You'll find me on Facebook and Instagram.
All right.
But thank you guys for joining us.
All right. Talk to you guys later.